Hello everybody, or Egyptology lovers. Today I'm going to talk about a project I'm going to do in order to transport papyrus paper. So I went to a thrift store and I found this object which actually transported wine. What it was basically is, if we unwind this is a piece of leather material right here, and this opened out flat this way. Now, what this did is that when it rolled, it was approximately maybe say this thick, and it contained a wine bottle, maybe even more than that, something around there where you could see the lines. But what I did is remove the pieces of wood that kept it perfectly circular and rolled it out. Now what it looks like is now a papyrus parchment holder, so something you can put papyrus and transport it without damaging. And maybe this was something I wanted to do for a giveaway or something someone was willing to buy. It really just depends on a project I wanted to do. And this would technically, as you can see, it would roll and would hold whatever it may be. So for example, I have this papyrus hieroglyphics hieratic script that was discovered in regards to the transportation of casing stone during the Khufu time in the 4th dynasty. So anyways, the point is I wanted to put something like that. If I made something out of papyrus, and then to send it to somebody, I just roll it up like that and wrap it around. Like wrap it around a few times like that, and then locks in place. And then you'd have a transporter. So I did some investigating. I'll put that right over here so you see. So what I did was I found a material veneer. So they use this for construction, for renovation. They put stuff on top of furniture or even railing or siding, whatever you think you want to do to cover it, to give it this nice wooden look type of material. So I took this particular giant roll that I purchased and I cut it into the pieces exactly as this one. So I use this as a template. So let's unroll that for a second here so you see. So let's put this papyrus paper over here. And you see it cut into exactly the same dimensions. And what you need to do is I need to look for these little pieces as well. This piece of wood that rotates. It does quite well of a turn. And this type of pincher, I guess. And there's a little plastic in the middle. If you remove this entirety, there's a little plastic there that gives it that height in order to be able to wrap this leather material around it. So what I did is I found this veneer. And by finding this veneer, which I'll put this like this so you can see, I need to find the pieces, and I did. At some hardware store, I found the actual circular button that would go in its place, but it was a little smaller and needed some adjustments. So to get that backing, I actually punched a hole through it with a drill bit. The next thing I needed was the spacer in between. Well, didn't want to really go out of my way to find something that's expensive or specific, so I just went to a little jewelry store and I found these little beaded beads that you can make a necklace or a bracelet out of, and I just carved out the hole thick enough, and you'll see why. Because by doing that, which was the spacer in the middle, there was these little pinchers I found. So what means is I can take this now and put that in there. It'll fit just nice and snug to create the height that I need. Like that. And then by doing so, I simply have to make a hole right where it is right over here. And it turned out that it was a perfect that I could do it. So I'll show you, for example, I needed a hole puncher in order to be able to do that. And I did find a hole puncher which I could punch into it. All right, so I found this hole puncher, and you can buy these pretty much at any store now. And all you need to do is get down to the middle of this, somewhere around, say around there, and get that hole right down there, and you'll get exactly to the position of this. So I'll show you an example of what I used. Now, there was this sample here that I did, right? There was this sample here that I recreated. And we created the same replica over here. And what I use is yarn. So I bought this bundle of yarn, and what it did is basically just kind of put it together and cut a piece out. And this fit just fine. So when you unroll it, Now you have your papyrus roller, and you can see where I put that down there, And there's that little space in between that I created there. And let's just remove that entirety so you could see. See, there's a space and you can roll the yarn around. And I simply used hot glue to seal them together, and they rotate just fine. And what I'm going to do as well is at some point I'm going to put a little wax seal on there to solidify this project. But I'll get back to this, and hopefully the next step will show you a bit of how it was put together. All right, so in the next video. All right, welcome back again. So now what happened is I had already punched a hole in this veneer that I had cut out, as I showed you before, the type of paper that I used on one side. So it's cut to the exact same dimensions as this roll over here. So I made a few of these. So this one, I was going to cut it out, but what I used is just a hole puncher. And I can only go so far with a hole puncher until, if you can zoom in, I'll show you. I can go only so far with this hole puncher, but it cut exactly where I wanted, and it made that hole for us right over there. So that turned out really well. Now, after that, once you have that veneer, what we need now is the pieces. So we have the circular, the circular or the round piece that goes on the very top, which is going to create for us the locking mechanism area, and the little pieces that go underneath. So all you really have to do now is just a little hot glue. So I'm going to put this back again like this. It's going to be a little tricky to put back all together, but we'll hopefully try our best. So what I learned, the best thing to do is to take this already, zoom in here so you see, and put that in like that. All right, but it's going to be on the outside. So we're going to take that steel part out, slide that under, and put that there. And that's what it's going to be like. Okay, something like that, if you could see it. And that's going to stick out there, and this is going to push down on it over here, and that's going to lock it in place. But we'll need the hot glue. So while I'm holding this over here, like that, as you can see, I'm going to bring this hot glue with one other hand, and I'm going to pour that into the little hole right there. Right? And that should lock it all together. Just a little more. Done. And then we take the hot glue while it's still hot and press that down into it. Like that. You can see here. Take this off. And it's creating that space underneath. Hold on to the hot glue as best as you can, so you can see it. And it's going to eventually do this replica here. And that's pretty much the project. Once I decide to go from there, is really just a matter of what I want to do. So the hot glue should have dried by now. Now, because it's locked onto the very top and it created that space, it allows it freedom to spin, which is actually important. Not really by major, but there we go. It resembles it now. It's in position. It's locked right, and now I just give it a little time. Now, while I'm doing that, I'll show you a little bit. This material, this veneer I found, what it does actually, it rolls, but you need to roll it the correct way. So this has a double paper material on it to keep it from cracking. But if you roll it at the opposite direction, it'll actually crack, it'll break. But rolling it this way, the paper from the outside protects it from cracking and can roll comfortably, like that. And by doing this now, I could put a papyrus like I showed you before. Write out a papyrus for someone, lay it flat on there, something like that. And then roll it in, like that. And now we have a papyrus holder. Right, I can do it as tight as I like. So say something like this. And there it is. And now, as the final step, is I used yarn as opposed to the leather. But the yarn was more available in Egypt than the leather material was. So all you got to do is just take it a little. You don't even need any glue for this. It's more of a tension thing. So once you do once, it pretty much locks in place with the second turn. And then you wrap it around like that, and then just come back around again the other way. And there you go. You have a locking papyrus mechanism. And I could put my papyrus and transport it, and it would be a nice holder. On the next step of the video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hot glue here to put my logo on there. and maybe add a little accessory to it, something hanging or something like that. But we'll see how we'll go with that. But there's the holder. So yeah, stay tuned for the next step. What I'm going to do is add a little wax seal and see how that comes out. Welcome back. So here we are now, going to do a final step for this particular project, and we're going to add the wax seal, something that I like to add as an extra feature to it to make it just a little bit nicer. So what we're going to do is warm up some wax. So I have some right over here, and I've already set it up with a little piece of wax. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. So it goes inside a little spoon kind of wax holder, and you just cut a little piece of wax out. I chose the red one. That's usually a typical nice color to have. And then you just put the wax underneath. I'm just gonna light that up. And that should melt the wax pretty quickly. And just so you can see a little close-up here. And that should pretty much do it right there very quickly. And once we have that melted, we're going to go ahead and add the wax seal to the front of this right over here. And you should see that soon. So we'll just get back when the wax is melted. All right, welcome back again. So now the wax is melted nicely there. I don't know if you could see it. I'll try to zoom in for you. Right there, nice and liquefied from the little candle that's lighting underneath it. And now the next step we're gonna do is we're going to pour it on top of this roundular piece that I have made of wood. And at the same time, once we've done that, we're going to press down the stamp which I had made. It was a custom-made stamp I made way back ago. It's actually of the reclined Anubis sitting on the on his throne, I suppose. Now, I would have used Thoth. It would have been more appropriate, as he is the god of letter and wisdom and logic and so on and so forth. But I like Anubis. He's very well recognized, very well loved. So I think that would be a nice addition. I also made another one for the females if they like also. If you want it, I have the Hathor, which is the woman of beauty and dance and music. Very well respected goddess as well in her right. So there's that option as well. But I'm going to go with the Anubis stamp, which I have already set up over here. So here we go. We're going to pour down. I'm trying to zoom in here a little bit so you can see. Now, usually when you do a wax stamp, it would be on something flat and slightly room temperature cold surface, so it would dry quickly. But let's see how this turns out. So here we go. We're going to remove the wax. Hopefully I don't spill it. From there, and we're going to pour it on top of here, if you could see. Nice and round. Now the pouring wax, you just have to be very nice and gentle and go in circular motions. Try to get it round there as much, not too far to the end. Just enough where it spreads nice and round. And then you go a little on the outside there. And that should do it, I think, for the wax. And now what you do is you take the stamp and you press down. I want it to go a certain direction. We'll make sure that my Anubis is sticking out the right way. And just press down. Hold it for position for a little while. And that should do it. And release it gently. And there we go. Our Anubis stamp, wax seal. Nicely done with that nice little melted effect. I can cut the piece out and just kind of make it look a little nicer, but I like the way it sits. Nice and clean and beautiful. And now when the time comes with the wax, let's blow out that candle so it doesn't create a fire. There we go. And now with the wax seal that we have over here, we got a little more wax that we can pour, but no, probably just rather keep it the way it is. Let me wipe that off before we have any other problem, which I don't think it will, but here, we'll just take that off like that. I like to keep all my things kind of clean so they don't get too dirty. And wax is really hard to get off if you leave it on there too long. Okay, nice and clean. I'll clean it up a little bit more. All right, so there we go. Now that we have that on there, and now it's pretty much complete. We basically just roll the document or roll the container like so. We have it there like that. And then we can take our yarn, which I had from before, and wrap it around like that. Just wrap it around. Oh, geez, that came out. I guess it came out. All right. Okay, well, we're going to continue from here. So where we had the Anubis stamp put down there, as you can see, nicely positioned with the wax seal that I poured on. And now we're going to wrap it like we had intention to do. So I could be just wrapping it like that, holding it in position, using the yarn, holding my thumb against it, spinning it a couple times to give it that tension that it needs, and then start wrapping around the papyrus. I could do it a few times if the yarn was longer, but I went about with a shorter one and just tighten it. And there you go. You have a transportable, beautiful papyrus holder with a nice wax seal to it. And going forward, what I'm going to do in the next highlighted video is actually create a papyrus and use this exact same one that I just made. And basically create my own papyrus. And what I'm going to do is recreate the papyrus of Veneer. And he was responsible for making sure the stones, the casing stones from Tura arrived in the Giza Plateau to be basically cut, or we don't really know, but we know he transported them. And this is his log as a captain. Day 1, day 2, day 3, and so on and so forth. So I'll have that as well with translation. Well, I hope you liked the video. Thank you very much for watching. This was the papyrus holder with wax seal. And please stay tuned for the actual papyrus. Thank you.